Hello everybody, this is Mr. Rob and welcome back to another episode of the Seattle Mariners franchise here on MLB The Show 23. As you may know, we have reached the All-Star break here in this series. We have live streamed the MLB draft. We saw our prospects. By the time you'll see this video, we'll have live streamed the Home Run Derby and the All-Star game, but I am recording this before that. But yeah, we spent a lot of time with the All-Star break, and I think, it's the midpoint of the season. It's our little break. We're going to take a little recap around the league. We did not do one for the month of June. Instead, we're going to do it here at the All-Star break and just kind of see where our Mariners stand, where some of the other teams stand, and see who's been doing good around the league. So if you're excited for this one, make sure you drop a like and you subscribe down below, especially if you want more franchise content. Now, before we get too deep into this episode, I do want to address something in regards to this series, something that I've been thinking about for a little bit of time, as well as the feedback I've seen from the survey that you guys took part in a couple of weeks ago. And that's just kind of having to deal with the format of this series. Now, next week, we will be starting a new series here on the channel. If you saw my Madden 24 team reveal, we will be doing the Washington Commanders franchise on that. And that means, obviously, this series is going to get posted a little bit less. I have basically had this series going for just the past couple of months, so we've been even at some points uploading like 4 to 5 episodes per week with the Seattle Mariners. And obviously that's going to change because I don't have unlimited time to work on this stuff. But it's nothing that's going to be dramatic. And I do see, and I've felt and I've seen in the responses that you guys do like this series, but sometimes it can move a little slow. And I do realize that that's partially my fault, just because I do like to just go so in depth with my series. I like to really get to know the teams, and sometimes I sacrifice I sacrifice pacing for that. So there's gonna be a little bit of changes, and it's nothing major. We're still gonna keep the same gameplay format where we look at 2 games each episode, but I think I'm definitely gonna cut out a lot of the filler episodes. And what I mean by that is, we have our main Mariner series, but inside this franchise, we have a lot of small series. We'll look at monthly recaps. We have Down on the Farm, where we take a look at the prospects and the minors, and we have scouting reports before the draft, so before we get to know all the guys we might draft. And that kind of adds up some episodes. That takes away some time. That slows us down. So there's going to be a lot less filler on that regard. First, starting off, these monthly recaps are going to go away. Instead of doing a monthly recap every month, I'm probably only going to do 2. I feel like my purpose of the monthly recaps is to kind of get you guys going or wrapped up with what's going on around the league. But, viewership, I can see it's not as interested as I am about that. And, I don't really have to go watch a monthly recap to figure out what's going on in my franchise. I can just log in and see the standings myself. So we're going to cut out the monthly recap, so that's April, May, June, July, August, September. That's 6 monthly recaps, sometimes even 7 that we usually get devoted for season. We're going to cut that down to 2, so that saves us 5 episodes. I'm going to have one for the All-Star break. That's going to be the big one because that is the midway point of the season. It's kind of a good time to catch up, see what's going on. And we're going to have a smaller monthly recap probably before the last month of the season, just to kind of set the stage for what teams are making a playoff push and what storylines to kind of look out for. So we're going to cut those monthly recaps out. Down on the Farms are going to be a little bit different. I usually do about 2 per month. I'll have a main where I look at both the AAA and the AA, play a game with them. And then I also have these little spotlights where I take a look at key prospects who could be a member of our organization. Those are going to go away. Those quick little 2 to 4 minute videos where we take a look at a prospect, they're really not necessary. I can just talk about them when we cover our AAA and AA, so that'll send me some episodes there as well. And then I've even thought about the scouting reports to an extent. Obviously, the draft is over for the year, so we're not going to see any more scouting reports. But instead of just dedicating 2 to 3 episodes before the draft, I've thought about just doing one big draft preview episode. I'm not fully behind that all the way, so please let me know in the comment section below what you guys want to see. How could I, maybe pick up the pace a little bit without sacrificing some of the immersion. But the last thing I'm going to say before formatting is I am going to try, especially next week when the Commanders kick off, I try to do 5 videos a week. I'm going to try to do 6. Now, I know that's a tall task. I know a lot of the time I don't even get 5 episodes out per week, but especially if I'm going to have a second series, I feel like I need 6 episodes or 6 videos a week. That way I can do 3 a week for the MLB and 3 for a week for the Commanders. I feel like that's still going to give us a good pace for both series. And then there's also maybe a potential NBA 2K24 series on the horizon. And I cannot do 3 series of 5 episodes or 5 videos a week. That's just not enough time. I'm actually not entirely sold on doing a 2K series just yet. So that's also something in the comment section below. Let me know, would you want to see an NBA 2K24 series? And that way, if I did have 3 series, 6 videos a week, that gives me 2 for each series. So just a little bit of house cleaning stuff just to kind of get you guys updated what's going on with the series and the format, and I guess a little bit of the potential on the line. But I know that ate up a little bit of time, so let's get into what this episode's about. Let's just kind of getting caught up with the rest of the league. Our Mariners have reached the All-Star break, and we have actually been killing it this year. 56-33. We lead the AL West by 7 games over the Astros, who we just swept in a 4-game series. I thought we were going to be decent. I thought we were going to contend for a wild card spot. I did not think we'd be one of the best teams in baseball. So that's been a pleasant surprise. AAA, our Tacoma Rainers are 44-43, so they're doing not too bad. And our Arkansas Travelers AA squad, they're only 7-5. That's because in AA they separate the season into 2 halves, and we finished second in the first half. So we didn't win, but they're doing pretty good as well. So overall, so far, so good. Now, we didn't have a June monthly recap, so I'm going to take a look real quickly at the players of the month for June. The pitcher of the month is Kevin Gausman of the Blue Jays. He had 6 games. He went 5-0 with a 1.76 ERA. Player of the month is Salvador Perez, the catcher for the Royals. He had 365 with 7 homers and 18 RBIs. It's good to see the older vet still kicking. And then rookie of the month was for the Rays, Nico Holsizer, who hit 364, 3 homers, 9 RBIs. We're familiar with him because he hit one of those home runs in a game that we watched when we played at the Rays and they beat us. As far as the National League, the pitcher of the month, Santi Alcantara, the NL Cy Young Award winner, had a less than 1 ERA. Big Meat Pete is the player of the month. We actually just saw him as well in the home run derby. 356 with 9 homers. And the rookie of the month, Dalton Guthrie of the Phillies, hit 318. Let's take a look at the standings now, see how the rest of the league is shaping up. In the AL East, the Blue Jays lead the league. They are dominating the AL East, 61-30. They have a 15-game lead over the Yankees, who are 46-45, definitely underperforming this season. In the Centrals, the Guardians, who sit on top, 51-39. They have a pretty solid lead as well. All American League divisions are not entirely close right now. They have 7.5 over the Twins. And then we're the leaders in the West, so we have 7-game lead over the Astros, who are still a very good team. As far as the wild card, we see Astros, Yankees, and Rangers, who are underneath 500, could get a wild card berth. The American League is very, very weak this season compared to the National League. In the NL East, the Mets lead the way 63-28. They're 15 games up on the Braves. The Central, finally a close division race. The Cubs are 48-42, but they only have a 2-game lead over the 46-44 St. Louis Cardinals. And then out in the West, the Dodgers 58-31, 10.5 game lead over the Padres. A lot of the division races not entirely close right now. As far as their wildcard teams, it's the Padres, Braves, and Phillies, but it is a very tight race. You got the Diamondbacks who are only a half game back, the Cardinals who are 1, the Giants 1.5. So a little bit more competitive in the National League side of things. Very much a top-heavy league. Now we'll spend where we usually spend most of our time, and that's with our player stats. How have our players done in the first half of the season? We'll break it down by position, starting off with the starting pitchers. We have currently 7 who are on the Big League Club. First one is Logan Gilbert. We'll see, who's got a 3.23 ERA. He's pitched with a 9-3 record, and he's had a very solid season, except for his last 2 starts. Gilbert's actually got rocked against 2 teams that are actually not entirely that good in the Nationals and the Tampa Bay Rays. So maybe a little concerning, but I mean, nothing to really, I think, just jump the gun on. But he's still been a very solid pitcher. We have a very solid young rotation, and they've played like it this year. Robbie Ray is not young, but the former AL Cy Young Award winner has played very good. He's handled his role as the veteran in the lefty of the rotation very well. 3.45 ERA, not quite his Cy Young numbers, but still very solid. Oh, and by the way, he is on the books for 3 more years after this one. Our rotation is very much locked up for the foreseeable future. George Kirby, who in my opinion has probably been the best starting pitcher. He's got a sub-3 ERA, also at 25 years old. Him and Gilbert get compared a lot just because they're both so young and they're both 25. Kirby's definitely had the better season. He's continuing to develop. So that's 2-headed monster and potential 3-headed monster if you count Castillo has done very good. Speaking of Castillo, we'll skip down to him. He's been the quote-unquote ace of the rotation. He was our opening day starter. He's our best overall player. He's the vet, 30 years old. He's played okay. 3.48 is not bad ERA. His whip, though, is a lot higher. And I just For an ace, I don't think he's really played that great. I think he could definitely improve. And then the fifth man in our rotation is Chris Flexen. And he's doing a very good job, I think, as a fifth rotation or fifth guy in the rotation. His ERA is 4.12. It used to be a little bit lower. It was a little bit higher, so he's kind of settled down in the middle, so to speak. For a fifth guy, I mean, he's very good. He's B potential, 73 overall. He's 28. We are a team, though, I think that is, well, I don't think. We are competing for the playoffs, so with the trade deadline right around the corner, I thought about potentially finding another starting pitcher to kind of just make us an elite pitching staff. I think Flexen, I mean, he's a great starting pitcher when needed to be, but I think maybe putting him in the long relief role for a potential playoff push would be ideal because we've had two guys in the long relief spot, and they've both not been good. First one, Justice Sheffield, a 6.39 ERA. He's not been very good this season. And then the other guy, Marco Gonzalez, who's actually still hurt with 1 to 2 more months with a dislocated shoulder. He's not been that reliable either. And I think just maybe adding another guy to our pitching staff would help us in that postseason push a little bit more. Relief pitchers, our bullpen's been pretty good. Ironically enough, the first guy we're going to take a look at is the guy who is probably the worst of the bullpen, which is Matt Brash, but he's still very young, 24 years old, 4.50 ERA, about in line where he was last year. That was a lot higher to begin the year, so he's definitely made some improvements, but, you know, definitely the weakest link, but still very young. Still has probably the biggest potential out of our bullpen guys. Then we have Penn Murphy, who you can see is one of our 2 All-Stars, and he had a .78 ERA through the first half of the season. Mr. Go-To, he's already pitched 57 innings. I'm basically always going to rely on Penn Murphy to get us out. Now, I have made a couple of moves, as you've seen in the past couple episodes, to potentially beef up our bullpen so we don't always just rely on Penn Murphy to get us out of jams. But he's still going to be that go-to guy, especially later in a playoff race. Penn Murphy is definitely the number 1 guy in the bullpen. Diego Castillo, who's had a very good second half of the first half of the season, if that makes sense. He started off with a very rough start, 5 ERA. Now he's down to 3.10. He's another guy I can count on. If Murphy needs a day off, then I usually go to Castillo. And we still have a year of team control with him. So, nice guy to have in the bullpen. Brusdar Graterol, the newest Mariner. We saw him get acquired in a trade. Had a little bit of a rocky start to his Mariners campaign, but he's kind of settled in a little bit. He's kind of a setup middle relief kind of guy. Also a guy that I look at if Penn Murphy wants a day off or if Castillo's a little banged up. We'll go to Brusdar Graterol. We gave up Taylor Trammell to acquire him, and he's done pretty good. He's young. I think he's going to be a guy who we'll see in the bullpen for the foreseeable future. Andres Munoz is listed as a relief pitcher, but he has been our closer, and he's been dominant until the past 3 save opportunities. He was like perfect on the season, like 30 for 30, and then he blew 3 saves in a row. There were 3 days straight, mind you. So hopefully we get the first like 95% of the season Munoz and not like the last league Munoz. So it's just kind of funny to see. And then we have Yency Almonte, who we also acquired in a trade this year and ironically enough also got from the Dodgers. And he's been very excellent sub 2 ERA. Our closer listed is Paul Sewald. He has not been the closer. He's been the setup man. He's 4 for 6 on save opportunities. He's been a very good setup man. Now Munoz continues to blow saves. I think Sewald could definitely get that job back. But nonetheless, I like where our bullpen sits. As far as our hitters, we'll start off with catcher, which is our weakest spot in the lineup. And this is also a position I've thought about potentially looking at in a possible trade piece. The only problem is there's not many catchers who are on the trade block, and I don't really want to acquire a catcher that has a ton of years team control. I kind of just want a 1-year rental because I do like the catcher that we have in Cal Raleigh. He's still 26. He's improving. He's a very powerful bat. He's just going through a little bit of a cold stretch, only hitting .214, 8 homers, 19 RBIs on the season. I still see him as the catcher of the future, which is why I don't want to get a guy who has a bunch of years team control. So I still believe in Cal Raleigh despite not playing as good. And the other catcher was our backup, Tom Murphy. He's definitely on a cold streak. I was hoping he'd be playing a little better because he's a guy I was thinking about potentially moving at the deadline. But, you know, his trade value has been kind of shot. I don't think we'll get anything with him on our own. If we do trade Tom Murphy, he'll probably be a part of a package deal to some other team where I'll probably have to give up Murphy and a prospect to acquire somebody. So, unfortunate for him, but he probably won't be on the Mariners after this season anyway. At first base, we have Ty France, who's played very solid, hitting .288 on the season, 9 homers, 42 RBIs. Home run numbers are a little bit down this year compared to his past 2 seasons in Seattle, But he's a guy that we can count on in the number 3 spot. I think he's been very clutch for us, which makes sense because he's got 99 clutch, so he's one of the best clutch hitters in baseball. So very happy with Ty France. The backup, Evan White's only seen 18 games. He's on a weird contract where he's signed for 6 seasons, and he's not really worth anything yet, so I don't know why the Mariners made that contract, but nonetheless, I mean, I guess he's been good in his 18 games, but I don't think he'll be on the Mariners big league club for a little bit longer, and I'll kind of talk about that in just a moment, but he'll probably be sent down to AAA relatively soon. At second base, we have Kolten Wong, who's had a phenomenal month of June. He hit like 6 home runs. He had 1 home run going into the month of June. Now he's at 7, hitting 262. His average has been floating between 220s and 233s for like most of the season. Now it's at 262, so he's picked a great time to get hot because he is also a free agent again at the end of the season. And he's not a guy I'm not entirely sure if I want to bring back, but he keeps playing at this level. It's going to be hard to deny him as his contact versus lefties has gone way up, and he's not really decreasing that much despite being 32. So he's been a very reliable leadoff man. Other second baseman, Robinson Cano, remember we signed him towards the beginning of the season just for kind of like one last swing song, give him a proper end to his career. And he's actually taken advantage of that because he's hit 282 with 4 homers, 18 RBIs, including a grand slam. So Robinson Cano has been very good. He's actually worked his way into a starting position. He is the DH currently versus right-handed pitching because he still hits righties pretty well. So good for Robinson Cano. He's going out with a bang. He's probably going to retire at the end of the season, but at least he gets a solid end to his major league career. Now, these are the only 2 guys we have listed at second base currently, but I do think I'm going to make a roster move probably before we get too much into the second half of the season. I think I am going to call up Cesar Hernandez, who's a veteran who's been down at AAA this season. He's hit pretty good, 264. I just think he gives us more position flexibility than Evan White, who will probably send down for him. So, switch hitter as well. He's a veteran who can help with a potential postseason kind of playoff push. So, I see him joining the Major League club relatively soon. At third base, we have Eugenio Suarez, who has had a very interesting season, to say the least. He's currently on a hot streak, which is good because his average has been sub 200 for most of the season. But he's hit 20 homers, which is our leading on the team. I called him strikeout or bust guy to begin the season. May was a lot of strikeouts, and then June was a lot of homers. So he's been fluctuating between the exact label that I gave him, but he's been a solid third baseman. He's also going to be under contract for next year, and he's still improving at the age of 31. His stats are going way up, especially against righty power. His contact versus lefties is way down, but I like Eugenio Suarez. At third base, we have Dylan Moore, who's basically a super utility guy who's really fast and can steal some bases. 99 steal, I mean, that's something that jumps off right off the gun. So obviously he's going to have a role on this team. He's still got 2 years of team control. He's only hit 229, which is just fine. He's very good as a backup. As shortstop, J.P. Crawford, he was probably the guy going into the season that I had the biggest microscope on. I was like, what are we going to get out of J.P. Crawford? And he's definitely delivered. He's hitting 280, 5 homers, 33 RBIs. His OPS is at 720. And I know France has the 99 clutch, but in my opinion, J.P. Crawford has probably been the clutchest hitter on this team. I feel like whenever it's like a late game situation, he's going to come through. And he's at 70 clutch rating. I think he's played higher than that. And he's on under contract for a long time. And I was a little worried that maybe at 28 years old, he might peak a little early, but he's still getting better. So it makes me a lot more comfortable with that big contract that he has for the next few seasons. So J.P. Crawford has definitely relieved a lot of the microscope that he had on him, and have been very, very happy with his play. He's been a very good number 2 hitter behind Kolten Wong. At left field, we have A.J. Pollock, who's had a rocky second half of June, but he's kind of getting back on track. He's hitting 277, 11 homers, 32 RBIs, and I think he's done a very good job in that left field spot. There's really nothing else to really say about him. The other left fielder listed as Sam Haggerty, who's basically just like Dylan Moore, super utility infielder, hitting into the 220s. He's got the speed while Moore has the stealing, so we got 2 of the same kind of players. Center field, Julio Rodriguez, the reigning AL Rookie of the Year Silver Slugger. He's another All-Star again. And I know everybody loved J-Rod last year when he won Rookie of the Year. I honestly think he's played better this season. Now, his average is about the same, and his OBP is down, but his slugging is a little bit higher. I mean, he's got a lot of the same stats he did last season, but he's already got 60 RBIs, and he's already stolen 22 bases. He's been very aggressive on the base pass, and I think there's just been another element to his game. Great center fielder. He's continuing to improve. I think having a better sophomore campaign. We knew J-Rod was going to be the cornerstone of this franchise, but if he continues in this trend, he could potentially be a future Hall of Famer. At right field, we have Teoscar Hernandez, who I said the biggest microscope at the beginning of the season was on J.P. Crawford. It's now on Teoscar Hernandez because he was the big signing in the offseason, the one-year contract. He's supposed to be able to crush lefties, but he's only hitting .231, and he's on a cold streak. He's got 13 homers, 32 RBIs. Slugging numbers are down by 100. I don't know. His WAR is a negative. His average home runs is probably the worst it's ever been in his career. He's not playing that good, especially for a one-year contract. Now, we are making a playoff push, so we're not trading Teoscar Hernandez this season, but the question is, what do you do with him after this season? Now, that's still got a couple months to go about his business. He might do better, but he's definitely a guy that going into the second half of the season, the microscope is on Teoscar Hernandez in that right field spot. So that does it with our team. I know it's been most of it. We'll take a look quickly, though, at the league leaders to see who's been dominating the league so far. The American League batting average leader is Oscar Gonzalez. This is interesting. Of now the Minnesota Twins. Now, if you remember, he was a part of the Cleveland Guardians, but they traded him during the season to the division rival Minnesota Twins. In return, they got starting pitcher Tyler Mahle, and I think the Twins, to this point, have won that trade. Gonzalez is killing it. He's been a great hitter. Mahle's been nothing that spectacular for the Guardians. So it looks like the Twins are winning out on that deal. He's also the leader in hits. Home runs scored is Aaron Judge. Now doubles, we actually have a leader in doubles in AJ Pollock. Forgot to mention that in our thing. He also leads in RBIs, Aaron Judge. Runs scored is Mike Trout. Julio Rodriguez actually leads the American League in stolen bases. That's that part of the game I was talking about. And then Dylan Moore's right behind him with 20. So we have two guys leading the American League in stolen bases. Walks is Josh Bell. For OPS, it is Mike Trout, the only guy over 1,000. In the wins department, it's Alek Manoah, which is, if you've been following in real life, very interesting. He's got 13 wins on the season. Saves is Jordan Romano of the Blue Jays, so they continue to do very good. But right behind him is Andres Munoz. Your ERA leader is Shane Bieber, who is actually tied with Clark Schmidt of the Yankees. Strikeouts is Jacob deGrom of the Rangers. As far as pitching WAR, Bieber has the best with a 4.1, and batting WAR is Trout at 4.5. And then nationally, the leader in batting average is Freddie Freeman of the Dodgers, hitting .357. He's absolutely killing it right now. Home runs is Kyle Schwarber, who we saw in the Home Run Derby. RBIs, though, is Pete Alonso with 82, which is actually by far and away the highest in baseball. He's also first in runs. Stolen bases would be Tommy Edman at 25, followed by Trey Turner with 24, and John Birdie rounds out the 20 club. OPS would be Freddie Freeman as well. In the pitching department, Justin Verlander leads with wins with 13. Saves is Brooks Rowley of the Mets as they continue to dominate the National League. The ERA leader is the reigning NL Cy Young Award winner in Sandy Alcantara, while Clayton Kershaw still has a sub-200 ERA. And then strikeouts is Corbin Burns of the Brewers. Pitching WAR would be Corbin Burns, and batting WAR would be Freddie Freeman. So that's a look at who is doing the best in the league. And that's going to do it for this episode. I knew it went a little longer. I knew that was going to happen, but I hope you guys enjoyed. Next episode, we will get back and finally start to get through the second half of the season. I think I'm going to sim this series against the Detroit Tigers, and then we'll just next episode have the 4-game set against the Twins, as well as the 3-game set against the Toronto Blue Jays. That'll be a big one, but hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you drop a like and you subscribe down below, especially if you want more franchise content. This is Mr. Rob, and I'll see you in the next one.